Guys, I want to get loud all of a sudden.
Do it.
Sorry, I'm going to.
I knew it was coming.
I'm sorry, guys.
Can't
but I
hold 'em
need
back.
to do that.
It is. You feel like Poseidon chucking that bugger down in the water.
Chucking that bugger. Did you butt out that deer?
I did not butt out that deer, but the next one I get,
Okay.
it's getting its butt out.
Is that little Stevie out here in the back?
Drobop. Bow drop, I'm sorry. Drobop. Hello. Stay tuned. I'll be back after my seizure.
Every little chipmunk that was running around, everything's dead quiet, and I went like that. Just happened.
I saw what is in essence a nature-gasm.
Hey guys, we are back sitting around the Sonic Campfire. This is the Rutten River Pursuit podcast. What a show we got for you guys tonight. There's the Sonic Campfire. I heard
Flames
it fire up.
again.
Did that.
That is good stuff.
It's like the Hunger Games.
Hey, I'm Ryan. Who we got around the table?
It's Uncle Buck.
This is Dave. I'm Steve.
I'm Will. And we brought another guest in for this very, very special show.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Ryan Motter's back.
Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Ryan Motter here.
How's it going?
The doctor's in the house.
Life is good here.
So, Dr. Ryan Motter's here because he has 1 degree of separation from our ultimate guest.
The ultimate guest. Tim the Barbarian Boetsch is also in attendance.
The Barbarian Boetsch. What's up? How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Pleasure is all ours, Tim.
Yeah.
So, if you guys don't know, Tim the Barbarian Boetsch is a perennial career man in the UFC middleweight division. And how many years are we working on there, Tim?
I just had my 10-year UFC anniversary.
That's
last
incredible.
month.
It almost doesn't even sound right?
Yeah, right?
Like a career in the UFC.
It's incredible. That's why I wanted to bring it up. It's just, who does 10 years? And you're lucky to have 10 fights. You're lucky to have 4 fights. 10 years.
Yep. Yeah, I'm definitely feeling it. We got a little bit of a rainstorm going on here, and I knew it was coming 2 days ago.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I was telling Tim I was in Detroit the past weekend, and there's a bunch of fans out there. And they're like, yeah, he's an absolute legend. I was like, oh, yeah, I guess we're using that word now.
Wow.
That's
It's
been
true.
around that long,
Yeah.
That's almost like 2 lives.
The glory days.
There. God.
Yeah, we're still in the glory days. I'd say.
To still be actively doing it, Tim, you're doing something right, buddy.
It's incredible. Like I can't imagine. Like Will said, you're lucky to have 10 fights and to be doing it for 10 years. How many fights have you had in the UFC, Tim?
Whew, what's my record? I think I'm at my 21 and 11.
That sounds about
So
right.
I've had 6, 7 fights outside the UFC. I'm not a numbers guy. I've had a bunch of them.
So
there.
you're pushing
I think
20 episodes.
This is
or
my
20,
23rd.
20 fights, right?
23rd UFC fight coming up.
23 UFC fights.
We
Yeah.
got to keep the numbers down here, guys. We can't be crunching all these numbers.
This is a lot of number crunching for this time of the day, but
So, and you've obviously, this is the UFC's kind of taken you guys all over the world.
Oh, yeah.
It's awesome because I actually, let's just throw this out here. If you guys don't know, Tim and I share Dr. Ryan Motter, and so my schedule kind of revolves a lot around your schedule, Tim.
wait, what do you mean you shared Dr. Ryan Motter?
Wait a minute. Can we talk about this?
He trains me,
knowledge only.
and he trains Tim the Barbarian Boetsch.
So you share the same trainer as a UFC fighter?
Well, high-profile podcasters and
I got you.
UFC
that
legends.
Makes sense. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, right. No, I live near Ryan and it works out. So I'm just lucky.
I guess so. I'll say.
Yeah.
I say.
Fortunate. It's a testimony to Dr. Ryan's practice as well. I mean, UFC fighter down to what, 68-year-old retired men?
Yeah, I mean we have everything. You know, it was one of the things I always gave Tim's. He was very innovative in the UFC. He kind of saw where the things were going. That's why he hired me for the nutrition component. You know, them guys weren't doing that. Now that's just starting to turn on. You know, I know Tim kind of taking care of his body and being proactive about all aspects of his health has really helped with his longevity.
Heck yeah. We were on it a long time ago
Yeah,
before it was part of the protocol that everybody's doing now.
Yeah.
Tim, what was the spark 10 years ago for you to bring on Ryan? What said, I need to go in this direction? This is going to be an edge as well for me besides just cardio and technique and drilling and training?
Well, for me, it was the major part of it is when I decided to cut down to middleweight. Before that, I was literally eating Pop-Tarts and training in my basement and had made it to the UFC. So there was a natural skill level or, you know, just that natural hunter, you know, killer in me that got me into the UFC and kind of, you know, immediately just shot right into the toughest fighting organization in the world. It was competitive, but I saw the need to, you know, be a little more professional about it. And of course, I knew Ryan from college. We were always getting nuts in the weight room, and obviously we had that commonality of bodybuilding and wanting to build strength. But I also knew that he was very well versed in all the nutritional elements that I needed. And as I decided to make that significant weight cut down to middleweight, I knew that he would be a great asset, and he knew my style and the types of things that I was into, the types of foods we were already eating. So we just modified things a little bit and made the transition. I would like to say easy, but it's never easy. It still sucks to this date, you know, getting down to weight. But it made it more comfortable having somebody that knew exactly what I wanted to do and what the mission was. So Ryan was the obvious choice for me when it came to that.
I've got two follow-up questions for you then, Tim. What exactly is a middleweight? Where are you cutting down to? What weight exactly are you cutting down to lately when you do fight?
Yeah, the day before I fight, I have to weigh in at 186 pounds.
Okay.
And for instance, I just got off a cruise about a month ago.
Thank you. You're going exactly
let
where
things slide. So I stepped on the scale when I got home, and I was 219 and a half. So that's when I was like, oh man, I probably ought to call Ryan, but let me try to shave some of this weight off first.
And in the business, in the business, we call that the walking around weight. And to cut down, that's what, 10%.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
it's one of them deals. You've been doing it so long that, you know, and everybody's like that with me when they come after cruise. You know, you're a bit panicky, right? And I just kind of talk to him and say, hey, you know, you have your body trained a certain way. The second you do it, it's going to go right back to it. But you have that kind of mental flux. There's like this reality thing. You see, I'm 219, I'm fat, and it was like 2 or 3 weeks. He was right back to where he was. But
wow.
But he's trained his body at that set weight for years.
Okay, so that's the catch, right? So what if I've been on a cruise all of my life?
So you're going to struggle to drop to
my cruise weight's 245.
I feel like fighting when you do.
Yeah, I mean, because Tim touched on it earlier. Tim touched on it earlier with the working out in the basement and the Pop-Tarts. I mean, minus the part about making it to the
working out part?
No, but minus the making it to the UFC, I feel like he and I had a lot in common.
The basement and the Pop-Tarts?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Tim, I saw you, which I believe was at your last light heavyweight fight back in 2009 in Columbus. I was at that, I don't remember what it was, UFC 90 something. And
he remembers you.
And I'm sure I was way up there, pretty high. but so
all my fans in the cheap seats.
And you were incredibly strong when you were light heavyweight. It was like, and that's something that even though you dropped down, what's light heavyweight, 205, right?
Yeah.
So you dropped down, 20 pounds fighting weight. You didn't that didn't impact your strength.
We actually
at
think he
least
got stronger.
apparently, right? Really?
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
incredible.
that's one
Leaner
of
and
my
meaner.
God-given talents, and that's definitely one of the things I've utilized in every fight. So I can't be a weaker version of myself, or I won't be myself. So actually, when I step in the octagon on fight night, I try to be anywhere from 205 to 208 pounds. So I'm still carrying, substantial body mass, and definitely, maintaining that strength is a critical factor to having success in my fights.
I mean, that's what most people don't understand. When you see people backstage, Tim is so much bigger than everybody because we understand his glycogen depletions and his hydration, where most people have no idea what he's doing. Tim's fighting at that weight. These other guys are fighting at 198. 190, and it's a significant. And some even lighter.
I was a wrestler, and cutting weight was the thing that you did. It wasn't healthy at the time, and to see what you guys do and the time frame that you have to do it, it's pretty much incredible. I think a lot of that, my dealings with Ryan and I have all these great talks and different things like that. But part of what you guys do is you incorporate the nutrition aspect from a lot of wild game.
Oh yeah. That's been what I was raised on. So I had a couple dietitians approach me when they heard I was going to drop down, and they put me on these like aerobics instructor diets of various forms of lettuce and sprouts, and I was like,
chicken,
this is not going to work. I am a carnivore. I've been eating deer meat. I went from the bottle right to venison. I think there was even mashed venison in my bottle as a baby. So that's that's what we I've got a case of deer burger everywhere I go during training camp. So it's part of the regiment.
And what most people don't understand about Tim too is like he's so intelligent and incredibly strategic with that. It's not just everybody thinks, okay, Barbarian, he's eating Pop-Tarts. Like he is, Tim has studied every single aspect of fighting. What part of nutrition is going to make me more intellectually stimulated. So we do look at the teas, and we look at the fish, and what's going to help me recover at different times of depletions. Okay, this is where we go like to an elk steak. So he's Tim is like a chess player, and I've worked with tons of people. In terms of that, he's hands down my most intelligent at every single aspect. And the way we add things like fish and his elk and moose and deer in, it's not just he eats it whenever. I mean, it is calculated amounts at certain times.
I don't want to derail the topic, but like one thing that's boggled me, there's some other fighters, and I probably not going to name a name or two, but they blame the venison for not
Johnny Hendricks.
It wasn't somebody just knocked out.
For not, the venison hung up in my digestive tract, and I couldn't make weight. He can't make weight any fight. He missed weight with our fight, so I had to kick his head off.
Yeah, I remember when Tim showed me that article. I read it, and I was like,
I couldn't believe
that is literally not true at all. Like, none of that is.
Yeah. So I mean that's I was blown away by that, and I'm glad I'm glad you guys took it to him.
It's almost funny, and when we add strategy on all different levels. Like if people would see what I do with Tim, they probably would not believe me. Like Tim was sick, so I was actually in Detroit. I go, here, look what Tim texted me and said I ate a whole pizza and 3 sodas and I lost weight. I was like, yeah, that's what I wanted you to do. So it's not everything is like, oh, is it like lettuce, chicken? And no, that's only at certain times when there's different sicknesses or depletions. We add like these mass amounts of carbs, and you have to have a degree of being a human being. So, Tim does a really great job with that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like your aspect on cutting weight because you can do it in a very dangerous way where it's pretty much all water weight.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And if you need to apply the true nutrition, so you can actually fight after weigh-in.
Yeah.
You can.
There's a lot of science.
Yeah. If you just drop water weight, you're going to be dehydrated for that fight. Your electrolytes are going to be all messed up, and you're not going to have the energy or the strength.
Yeah.
And that shows in your fights, that you still have the energy, you still have the strength. crazy amounts of strength to fight on fight night.
Yeah, and Tim definitely has learned stuff on his own, and he'll tell you here with how he depletes his water and stuff. But there's been some things along the way that has helped us. Like they stopped the IV bans, and where most people didn't know how to do that, but we've been doing it with food forever. We do it very strategically with our nutrition, and the same with the steroid stuff. That started going out, and people start popping for, and now Tim's way stronger than these guys. So there's along the line, Tim took that chance and really helped out. But you want to tell him, Tim, kind of what you do from a weight cutting perspective that works for you. He doesn't use saunas.
Yeah, I do all mine just in the hot bathtub soaks. That's the last day of it. I mean, there's some dietary things we do the final week, and the last 2 weeks we do some sodium loading and water loading. So there's a whole process there that I learned, over the course of the past 5 or 6 fights. I actually have to stretch out to 15 days total for that salt and water load, just so my body becomes used to flushing itself out. And then right at the end, when you cut the fluid levels, so you're not having that intake, the body continues to flush. Naturally, you're going to flush out a lot of fluid. And then just with our carbohydrate intake right at the end, every glycogen molecule holds onto water. So when you suck those out of the muscles, you're also taking water with it. So I am very depleted, and it's not, the most healthy thing to do to yourself repeatedly. But it is a part of the sport. I do it as safely as possible. And I've done it many times. And when I was first doing it, I was monitoring all my levels, my body temperature, my heart rate. I can tell when my blood is becoming, viscous and getting into that danger zone. So there's a lot of things that, people need to be aware of, and I definitely wouldn't recommend it to anybody that isn't a professional. But there's a lot of methods to getting that water off, and then there's even more to putting it back on correctly. You have to make sure you rehydrate your blood and then rehydrate the muscles, and don't try to feed yourself too soon because it'll screw up the whole process. And then, so you've got all that to take into account, and then every body individually is different in its timing and its processing and the types of food that it wants to put back in there. So,
and that's what. How about Tim? I mean, we've had so many times where we had to be dynamic to each situation. I mean, we're always evolving the process, and sometimes there's different responses that we have to be reactionary to. So you want to have a scientific base, but you have to be reactionary upon that. Like sometimes
in Japan, when we were
just
scouring the landscape to find distilled water, and we couldn't find it. They had no idea what it was.
You got to be a problem solver, right?
And it actually turned out for the better.
Yeah, we learn more from that. You know, so you got to keep your head calm, cool heads. Always.
When we were down in New Orleans, I mean, that was one of the first things I was keeping up with Ryan. We went down, used it as a little bit of a vacation, and got to see Tim fight. And Ryan, first thing he's going to the store, he's getting fresh fruits and fresh everything, and just to get you settled.
Yeah, and it's all very important to have as much familiar stuff as you can. You know what works, and then if you can't find exactly what you're looking for, like when Ryan's there and he can run, he can find something very similar, or he'll understand the macronutrients in each thing that'll represent what we need. So it's all good. We've definitely got a winning formula.
The bath technique, I'm going to go back to that. It's a great approach to helping a body keeping itself at a metabolism where it's going to burn fat, burn weight off, but not dehydrate and suck you down. Am I correct in that?
So the reason we use that method is because obviously you can adjust. You have control over the temperature of the water, and there's a very scientific method that we use. It's as hot as you can comfortably get in there without burning your nuts, and that's kind of how we know that temperature is going to cook the water out of you. But the thinking is, I am not burning energy. So a lot of people will go and smash pads. They'll get in the sauna. They'll work out. They'll put physical strain on their muscles and their central nervous system, where I'm just laying in a tub while it's suffering and it's torturous because it's so hot. I'm not physically exerting my muscles, so there's no fatigue being put on my body. So as soon as I put all those fluids back in, I'm ready to go. And if I do it correctly, I won't have that lactic acid build up and have to deal with that lactic acid flush that other people have done. Say if they put on a sauna suit and gone for a 10-mile run, their legs are going to be shot.
Gotcha.
So that's the methodology and that temperature control, and you're completely submerged underwater. So sweating is completely inefficient because that's what sweating does. It's, cools your body through evaporation. If you're already completely submerged, there's no evaporation. So your body has to pump out. It's going to give up whatever water it can.
I'm gonna make you turn 180 degrees now.
All right.
And I want to know now, how do you prepare yourself to do one of these elk hunts that I hear about?
Do they really want to know that, Tim?
Well, I love wrestling, and I can talk wrestling all night, but we are an outdoor podcast.
I think we're going to have to change it up, though, because it's almost sounding like we're going to have to wait to release this episode until after Tim retires, because he might not want all this stuff out.
Well, actually, I had.
You got to tell them.
They followed me around and filmed this. I think it's on YouTube somewhere. To this day,
It's on YouTube.
I think you got to tell them the first time we shot your elk, Tim. That was one of the best hunts I was ever on.
Oh, no, that was epic.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that yesterday, how you made that offhanded 500-yard shot and folded them up off the road there. That was incredible. And then we went into our tequila binge, and then
we really did. So we went out to a Tim's buddy, Mike Bishop, who we go hunting with, and he's like, "Oh, this is a good place to go elk hunting." I'm real skeptical, right? Like, okay, so we're like road hunting. I'm in shorts, and like, there's an elk out there. I was like, "What are you talking about?" And Tim has his, I think he's got a spotting scope. He goes like, "Well, I've never seen an elk before, but I'm guessing that's a nice one." I was like, "All right." Nice. So, and I have this.
Was it a spyglass? Was it like?
I had a 338 Lapua with a 220 grain bullet, and I was like, all right. It's like, I aimed like 12 inches. I went, boom. Tim goes, "You just dropped that." I go, "Shut up." And he's like, no, you did. Like, I shot right in the heart. Yeah. And so, like, we kill this thing, and so, like, we're so excited, and we just drink, and we really did. And we just drink tequila, and I hate tequila. So we wake up, and
you drink it faster.
Yeah.
When you hate
so I'm just, I got my fingers on my nose. Well, it tastes pretty good after like 6 or 8. So the next day we wake up at like 10, and Tim's like, "Let's go to the top of the mountain." But we were so excited, we did not train. I would both say we were probably maybe even a little out of shape. I mean, even us out of shape, we can still go. But I mean, it was disgusting. We just smelled like vodka or tequila going up, and Tim,
sweating out.
It actually worked out. It was a pretty good cover scent because we got to the top of the mountain and peered down over the other side. There was my bull, so
it's beautiful.
Ryan and I went back to back. He killed his the first day. I smoked mine the second day, and it was a hunt that I don't think we've had one like that since. And I don't think we tried to recreate it, but
maybe that bull was just vapor drunk off of tequila sweat.
I was like, Tim made a heck of a shot.
Possible.
We stalked it and took time, and Tim just made an unbelievable shot. But I mean, that pack out we had, how about it, Tim? That was terrible. It took us days.
That never gets easy up there
because like
my knees hurt just thinking about it.
I mean, its rack was huge. This thing he shot, and like we're bouncing off trees and like.
So you each had to carry out what you carried in, less than what you ate or whatever, and plus an elk apiece.
Oh yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, and then we had a butcher shop, so we had to it took like a whole week for us to, package it. Now we are so much more lazy. We're like, let's just take it down the butcher. We're like, let's just
ship back a leg. We tried actually dragging elk whole down the mountain,
and we really actually did. Oh. Yeah, we thought that we called back there joking. We're like, all right, let's try. And we actually did. Like we were destroyed. Like Tim and I were dragging the elk by its horns. We really should have videoed that, Tim, but I don't think anybody's ever going to believe us. That we're going to have to recreate it.
Yeah. Hey, I'm up for
it. So Tim, what got you into hunting? Like, what drives you to hunt?
It's just something my family has always done. I remember before I could even carry a gun in the woods, I was tagging along with my dad. He was headed out to the deer stand, or there may have been a drive or two back in the day before it was legal in Maine. But that's the only way you can find deer up there. They're so far and few between. But I just got introduced real early, and it was something that I just absolutely loved, being in the woods, being out there with Mother Nature, and just the thrill of the hunt, and then the reward Like I said, I was raised on deer meat. I'd never, eaten a beef burger, and can't even remember when the first time was, but it was all venison all the time for me. That's what I was raised on. That's what I love, and my kids to this day are, that's all we eat. So it's just a part of who I am in hunting, not just deer, but just being out there. Ryan and I used to chase rabbits around the property here. That was a lot of fun.
We got the kids into trout fishing now too, Tim. Tim he has good brook trout fishing, so Tim likes coming up, and we go fishing the first day. How about it, Tim?
Yeah, hunting, fishing, it's all good. It's what I love to do. Looking forward to being able to put more time into it once this whole fighting thing slows down a little bit.
Like as a PA boy, I know there's a big difference between Maine deer and PA deer. And,
oh yeah.
I mean, like, can you describe processing like a Maine deer? Like, they're just big.
Well, a lot of times they're nastier. Honestly, they're just
really.
They're older, they're tougher. At least in my experience, I always, there's a huge swamp out behind my house, so we were always hunting these old monster swamp bucks. So when you cut into them, you'd have that nice kind of lily pad, muskrat mound smell to them. Oh. They're always, so it's a little bit different than a nice corn-fed Pennsylvania deer, and that's happily grazing out there when you harvest it, versus this nasty old Maine buck that's survived all these hard winters and fought off the coyotes just to come by your tree stand and have you kill them.
Tim,
so there's definitely a little bit of a difference in the meat.
Didn't you say, Tim, your family got some, and they get big there? I mean, they weigh, some of them are way more than ours.
Oh yeah, no, they're bigger for sure. My dad actually shot another. He got back into the big bucks club of Maine, and that means the field body weight of the deer is over 200 pounds. He shot another one of those this year, so you can imagine what the live weight of these things are. And actually, my brother, the deer were running so hard up there this year. They killed 3 bucks in one field over the course of 3 days. They were all just chasing does hard, and that 200-pounder came out of that bunch of 3. So there's some big critters up there for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always heard 3 will get you in the door. The 3 they're just big cows. I mean, their necks are bigger than their heads.
Now, we've been talking a lot of wild game here and applying to your nutrition. What is your favorite wild game to eat?
Well, my favorite wild game actually is that moose meat that Ryan finds up. Where do you go to find those dang things? They're delicious.
Yeah, Newfoundland. That was part of the
Newfoundland moose. Those
that was part of the
incredible.
That was the big debate we had, and we brought the elk and the moose, and we tried it. And Tim's like, "Man, this moose it's incredible."
I do like a good elk steak.
Elk steaks
of all the wild game steaks, I prefer an elk steak.
Yeah, I agree.
Any of the other ones?
Because I rate a moose steak actually 3rd or 4th. I'd probably take a deer steak over a moose steak, which is interesting. But the elk, to his point, is the best. It's like it melts in your mouth.
I'm all about the moose right now.
I actually, I gave an elk steak to one of my clients who hates steak, and she said to me, "I wish you would have never gave me that." She's like, there's nothing comparable to that.
You pulled her to the dark side.
She's like, she doesn't even like cow steak, and it's like, but the elk, it like it's like candy. It's like melts in your mouth.
So comparatively, we know you really enjoy the moose meat. You really like the elk steak. I'm not getting a distinction of what you like to chase. What wild game you like to chase the most? It sounds like elk
in season.
Whatever's in season. Perfect.
That's the best answer ever.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, we probably like that elk, Tim, don't we?
That's my favorite hunt. I get the most excited for that, but it burns you out. You go out there and you hunt hard for a week. You're ready to lay on the couch and try not to die.
I was telling them earlier, Tim, how when we go out there, like I saw a difference in his body. Like we eat horrible out there, and like I could just see Tim just suck down his weight, and we're just like eating bad.
Burn the calories,
it's just a whole other level of.
Have you ever had to like juggle a fight with a hunt? Where you're like, you know what, I just can't do that September hunt this year because the fight's going to be early October, or has that ever come up? Has that messed with your schedule?
Yeah, and I hate it when that happens, and I've actually got my manager trained now to make sure that the fall season is pretty wide open.
There you go.
Yeah, no,
that's very upsetting when I can't get out to Colorado to chase the elk around.
We learned that probably about 5 or 6 years ago. I remember telling Tim, I said, Tim, you're disengaged then, and that's okay because I'd be the same way.
Yeah.
But even that November hunt or that November fight he just had in New York was one of his best ones, the MGM thing, but that was kind of a different animal. You can just tell in February, March he's ready to go, but he likes the holidays and he likes to hunt. And I told him, I was like, man, just plan everything around that. Like you're just disengaged then,
Well, unfortunately, that's when you grocery shop.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't miss days. That's kind of hard.
When the grocery store is open, you better be shopping.
That's right.
That's right.
But you can just tell. I mean, I can tell that time of year, Tim, it's one of the few times he will relax. He does enjoys hunting, and I learned that early. I was like, hey, don't worry about anything else. I don't care what you eat. We have eggnog, and that's part of our diet. It's part of our nutrition program.
Yeah.
That he totally relaxes and recovers.
I
need that mental break.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is something you want to talk about. We didn't talk previously. I follow Tim on Instagram and Facebook. He has some extra hobbies in there that I never know if it's going to be the next evolution of Tim Boetsch and his competitive side. Like I see the 3-gun and I see the grilling and I can just,
gold finding.
Yeah, I've got a pile of hobbies, but definitely I've got a barbecue bug right now, and I think that's from training down in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Definitely cranking up the smoker a lot more, but also doing a lot of game in there too. So, just getting some new techniques and doing some things there, and that's going to be a part of the lifestyle for sure. But 3-gun, that's natural. That's just shooting. That's practice for hunting season there. So I try to incorporate as much as I can and keep things interesting too. It's all good. It all relates to what I'm doing, the shooting and everything. The tactical shooting helps keep my mind sharp and keeps me in that combative mindset. And then I can use the cooking to keep my meal prep going and stuff like that. Oh, yeah.
Hey, on that shooting side, when I was perusing your Instagram, you have a 338 bolt action, but it kind of looks like a SCAR. It's a very interesting gun. I'm not sure. Like,
yeah, it is.
Like, what is that?
Took Tim's hearing.
That's my elk hunting gun there. That's a 338 Lapua mag, and the company is now Desert Tech that makes it, but it was Desert Tactical Arms when they first started, and it's a bullpup design, so it's a little bit shorter rifle, but it'll reach out there and touch them. So that's what I like to carry out there. Nice heavy round, shoots straight, and hits them hard.
And that bullpup design just looks so cool.
Yeah.
I gotta get it.
That sucker's heavy though, man.
Is it really?
Oh yeah.
But I can only imagine though it's carrying the weight pretty comfortably when you shoulder that. A lot of that weight's back toward into your shoulder. And it's like the reverse limb crossbows. Yep. You were talking about crossbows earlier. If you get those with the quiver out front, a lot of times crossbows are real front heavy. The reverse limb ones, a lot of that weight's in the back where the receiver would be on a firearm. I could see that would shoulder nice.
You want some weight when you have that much kick from a 338.
Mm-hmm. It handles the recoil nice. It's got a nice muzzle brake on it. It's real manageable to shoot. But like Ryan said, you want a heavier plug. That thing will smoke
we
your
made that
eardrums.
mistake. Yeah, I see him shoot a mule deer and he didn't have it in at all. I thought, I think I was deaf and I was inside. I couldn't hear anything. No, I mean we had some amazing times out there. That thing shoots though. That he uses.
Oh yeah,
1,200 yards.
So I mean, those things are. Do any of them trip your trigger, so to speak? Competitive side, like a fight, or is it? Are these just really cool hobbies?
Well, I mean, the hunting gets me excited, and the most excited I've been hunting lately is my son. My oldest son just started getting involved, and he was able to harvest his first deer last year. And having him do that, he did it with a crossbow, having the deer come in nice and close, and just that whole experience of being close proximity to the animal, then having him put a nice clean shot on it and watching it run and expire, within a matter of 30 yards from where he took the shot.
Nice.
To be able to do that, and I actually got it on film. That's what life is all about for me right there.
Wow.
I've been blessed that I have these experiences as a professional athlete, but at the same time, I remember my dad taking me hunting, and now that I can share that with my kids, and that's what's important to me. That's what gets me excited, being able to share those moments with family. Of course, the fighting's fun. It's exciting. I'm an adrenaline junkie, and it's going to be tough to compete with the feeling of being locked inside a cage, fighting somebody else. But hunting for me is pure excitement, and I truly love that.
I'm going to take your word for it on the locked in a cage, Tim, but I'm right there with you on the hunting.
I'll tell you from a health perspective. Tim and I, we go over every aspect of his health, and relative to his hobbies. Again, what I say what makes Tim so innovative is, one of the things he said, it's not that he's getting sick of fighting, it's just he needs to challenge his brain in a lot of different ways. It's not necessarily that, okay, the shooting helps with the fighting. It does, but it also gives him a different aspect, a different tangent in the brain to think of something else other than that, rather than the repetitive motion. I mean, intellects and people like Tim, they have to be challenged in different ways.
Tim, is it a question of slowing your mind down and focusing during that fight and hanging on to a breath, or is it am I reading way too much into that?
No, you're spot on. I mean, you've got to be in the moment, every moment in a fight. And if you find yourself drifting at all, that's one of the things I tell people about, and I've been blessed with, is, the first time you walk to the octagon, they always talk about this big, your first fight jitters, or what's going to happen your first time you're in front of the cameras, because there are so many distractions. But that's, just like life. Life is distracting. And if you focus on all the stuff that doesn't make sense, you're not going to get anything done. And I've always just been able to forget everything else and in the moment be very focused on what I need to do, and make sure that in training I'm focused. There's crossover from fighting into every aspect of life. For example, hunting, that's an easy crossover. You've got to put in the time. You've got to do the scouting. You've got to practice shooting. You've got to, put yourself in stressful situations where you're, maybe taking a shot at an awkward angle. You can only fall to the level of your training. You're not going to rise to the occasion, and especially if you're going to let something distract you. So absolutely, you have to be focused and in the moment. But you also have to make sure that you're totally prepared and have done everything to the greatest of your ability to give yourself the best chance to be successful.
And when you're not focused in a tree stand or in that situation, you can easily blow a hunt. If you're not in the moment, if you're thinking about something else, so I'm going to quick check Facebook, and bam, that deer was walking in that you didn't know about, so.
And always behind you to the right.
Yeah.
Always behind you to the right.
They know.
I actually like to incorporate a little bit of
the deer view mirror.
Well, no, there is that. But you asked the question: Does the hunting get him going as much as the fighting? And they both do, but it's a little bit different. I'm actually working with my son to try to incorporate both. Right. So my son's 13 now.
To not fight with you to go fishing.
When he was 11 is when he shot his first deer, and that was also with a crossbow. Nice. So what I actually did, he made a perfect shot on this doe, and we didn't get to see her pile up. She probably went about 50, 60 yards up over the hill. Yep. But, he put a perfect shot on. I looked at him like, dude, you smoked her. And I gave him the knuckles. We high-fived. We hugged. And then I pulled back, and I just, boom, punched him right in the face. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
kidding, of course.
I will tell you, Tim was so excited about Christian. I remember he showed me the video like 3 different times, and he was telling me he was shaking and more excited than.
I was shaking. I had an adrenaline dump too.
Yeah,
it was actually worse sitting there with my son while he was doing that than I've ever experienced on my own when I was hunting. So yeah, it was absolutely hands down one of the greatest moments that I've had.
That's awesome.
In my life. I mean, that was good stuff. Yep. I'm only kidding about punching him in the face.
Well, you should see the pictures. Yeah. No.
Tripped him into the gut pile.
Oh yeah.
It's a rite of passage. That's awesome. So what's next for Tim Boetsch? Where are you guys going?
We've got April 14th out in Glendale, Arizona. Is it Antonio Carlos or Carlos Antonio? I can never get it straight. Anyway, he won season 3 of The Ultimate Fighter in Brazil as a heavyweight, so he's a big guy, 6'3". I seem to always be the shorter man in these middleweight bouts. But it's going to be a good one. It's UFC on Fox, and that's, what did I say, April 14th. So don't have to drop $60 to watch it. It's going to be a great fight, great card. Really excited about it. Looks like an opportunity to maybe get involved in some bonus money again by knocking somebody out. So I'm really excited.
I love it. That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, if you guys don't know, if you're not familiar with the Tim Boetsch Fight, you can't ever count out Tim Boetsch. You never know. It's, from bell to bell, he's always in the fight.
Yeah, it's almost incredible. I mean, to the last second when I'm in tune, and it's to the point where like I'm not even surprised anymore. He's done it so much.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it's been so much fun, even for me. And I tell Tim all the time, I was like, man, this is an unbelievable thing you got going, right?
Yeah, and we don't get to, every once in a while I run into Tim, and we don't always get to chat like this. But like I never told you, but my favorite thing that you do is those Spartan kicks to someone's face.
Front kick to the face. Yeah. They try to call it like a teep or some Muay Thai. I just think of kicking in a front door.
Nice.
Yeah, breaching the door.
That's a wake-up
That's
call
right.
to him. Hey, what was your most memorable fight for yourself? Like, what stands out to you in your fighting career?
From a career standpoint, it was the fight where we went to Japan and I got smashed around for 10 minutes by Okami, and really had to go through a whole bunch of different feelings and emotions, and then that third round realized, hey, I can still just go out there and knock this guy out. So that's what I'm gonna do, and I went out there and did it. And that was just an incredible feeling, being over there, and just the size of that arena is incredible.
Was that a different atmosphere as a standpoint of culture? For
oh my goodness,
their fighting culture compared to our fighting culture?
It was like a library.
Yeah,
they were making weird noises. We didn't try to figure out what that was, Tim, right? Like, we don't know what they were doing.
Well, they're very respectful people.
Very
respectful. You always get people like booing you when you're walking out. There was none of that over there. They were very respectful, and even they were cheering for me. And Okami was their hometown guy. I mean, he literally grew up in that town. So they appreciated what I did there. But the other fight that I had was up in Bangor. So literally, the arena was a fraction of the size of the one it was in Japan. But, the 8,000 people that were there to see me. But when I knocked out Tavares that fight, it was,
that was a comeback
fight. The
fight
place just
too.
went nuts. It just kept going. The applause seemed like it wouldn't stop. It was just a very surreal moment. So to be able to go to my backyard, with the first UFC that was ever up there, and win by knockout, and just
it's amazing.
Feel that hometown.
It's amazing, Tim, how you have a couple of them. I mean, just like the last one, the MGM Grand knockout. I mean, that was incredible. But I mean, I would definitely say, I mean, for me, Japan was your most career defying, and I remember the one where I was like, "Pinch me, is this a dream?"
Yeah.
You just knock out Okami in front of all them people in Tokyo.
Yeah, a lot of people consider that one of the greatest comebacks of all time.
Yeah.
It definitely ranks right up there. At the time, Joe Rogan was, flipping out and saying it was the greatest ever. There were some people that argued there were other ones, but I can't think of any.
Unbiased.
I might be a little biased.
No, that was
You got my vote too, buddy.
I appreciate
the uppercuts, one after another, just crazy.
You even say, Tim, like I remember you telling like he even says like sometimes he doesn't even remember it, like it just like happened. Like,
Yeah.
he just like.
Oh yeah, when you're in the flow, a lot of times you have to watch it and be like, dang, yeah, that was nice. I'm glad I did that.
I think the funny part about Tim too is, after something like that's over, about 20 minutes later, he's like, "Hey Ryan, how you doing?" He's just like he's so, dude. And that's what all the fans that I've ever talked to with Tim, everyone has said that to me. They're like, he's just like a regular guy, and I was like, well, it's because he is.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But I mean, he is just dialed in on that day of
punch
fight.
people in the face for money. But.
That's what I love about fighters, though.
Yeah.
They have that ability to, okay, the guy that I'm going up against, I know him, and we've joked around before. You step onto that mat, into that octagon, whatever the arena may be.
It's business.
Exactly. And then, boom, the bell rings. About 20 minutes afterwards, you snap out of that REM sleep or whatever you want to call it.
And it's so healthy, too. Like, I think a lot of people sometimes have that characteristic about them and don't ever get to address it. And you can see, Tim and I talk about that when there's an extended period of time that he doesn't address that aspect to him. Like, it gets to you. I mean, I'm the same way. There's almost that bit of alpha, that he has that he has to address. Or, sometimes it transfers over, it comes out in different aspects.
I work in an office environment. I want to punch people in the face on a very regular basis.
Yeah,
the difference is, instead of getting paid, I would get fired for it.
Yeah.
So,
like I said,
I keep my mortgage payment coming.
But I tell people with Tim, like, everybody's like, "Oh, is he like a walk around like tough guy?" I was like, you would never know he's a fighter. You would never know Tim's a fighter. He's like the nicest, calmest guy you will ever meet in your life.
Yeah.
He's soft spoken, like he'll do anything for you, but it's that day of fighting. That Tim is a fighter.
They're in the zone.
Yep, that's what he does.
You probably see this a lot. There are guys that don't turn it off, very well, and they hold on to grudges, and I mean, I don't know how much is kind of trying to get ratings or whatever, but some people some guys will just, and girls, they're constantly in turmoil with other fighters. I just don't.
Yeah, and
maybe
there's
I don't
more
really
of
see
that
that
now, just because that's how they sell fights, and that seems to be the way things are going. But that's just because that's who the famous people are now. That's how they've done it. They've called people out. They've through boasting and running their mouths have brought attention to themselves. But when I started fighting, I think of course, I'm the old guy now, but I remember when I considered the true superstars of the sports, the Chuck Liddells, there's nobody that can compare to him. People talk about McGregor being the biggest of all time. Come on. He's no Liddell. So that guy was just a badass. Everybody would buy a pay-per-view just because they knew that he was throwing heavy leather and knocking somebody out, and that's what you were paying for. You weren't paying for some mouth to go out there and be cocky and talk smack. But it's things change, and it'll swing back the other way. It's fighting. That's the beautiful thing about fighting, is it's a true sport. There's a lot of honesty involved. You've got to be able to fight and get in there and perform at the end of the day. So whether you talk your way into a fight or not, you better be able to perform once you get in there.
Yeah, there's something to be said for quiet confidence.
One thing, I mean,
scary.
You do have a calm persona. You're in the moment. You're very focused. But where'd the Barbarian nickname come from?
Well, I was a huge Arnold Schwarzenegger fan. Growing up watching all the movies,
right?
And then obviously Conan the Barbarian was just seemed to make sense. I'm not. When I first started, especially, I was not a very technical fighter. Obviously, with time, I've picked up a few things along the way, but the strength that we talked about earlier is a huge factor in my fight game, and it just had a real nice sound to it. When
I like it.
Brother-in-law Drew said it, I was like, "That's it."
So it wasn't swords and body paint.
Is the smash him in the face thing.
I will tell you that definitely shows you Tim's confidence. Tim actually used to follow my bodybuilding career, and that's how we kept in touch after we got to college. We'd email each other, and he's like, I'll never forget. He was going to do the show, and we're kind of exchanging advice. I'll never forget him emailing me. He was like, Ryan, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to try this fighting thing. I was like, oh, you're probably pretty good at that. And that's just how confident he is. And when people ask me how do you explain Tim, I say, you ever hear that person that goes, oh, I'm going to do this and that, and you're like, okay. that's Tim, but he doesn't. Like, that's him to a T. So he emails me back like 2 years later. Hey man, I'm doing pretty good. He has like these belts around his neck. He's like, come to one of my fights. I was like, all right. So he's gonna like fight this Russian guy, and I was like, oh man, this guy looks pretty tough. And Tim like annihilates him in 40 seconds. And he comes up, he's like, hey, pretty good to see you. And he's like, I'm gonna try to get to UFC, and he did, and like I remember that fight is when I thought that Tim is gonna be in the UFC, and he was. But like, even though he, like he said in the beginning, he may not have the skill, his confidence is something I've never seen before. Like, there is no doubt in his mind, no matter what he was doing, that he was going to go to the UFC. And I'm guaranteed there was nobody that took the path that he did and got there that way.
Yeah.
He kind of picked up the skill later. He just went and just fought people basically.
I think and it's cool. Like wrestlers kind of.
Oh, for sure.
Kind of trend that way, and they'll figure it out later. But they know they've been through some battles, and
I can handle this. And
yeah,
hold my beer. I got this.
And like most people don't know, Tim is a 4-time state champ. Like he came from high level wrestling. Even though he didn't do it, like that never leaves you. That discipline, that mentality.
Oh, sure.
I did want to ask him that if he did wrestle in high school, and
are you Maine Hall of Fame, Tim? Aren't you?
Yeah. Yep.
Now that's the That's a New England state championship, correct, Tim? Up north.
Well,
there?
I had the Maine state individual. Then I was a high school All-American, and then I wrestled Division I at Lockhaven University. That's how Ryan and I got hooked up.
Okay, all right. Because now New England has a combined championship now. So
yeah, they've had the New England championships for a while.
Yeah, so you were a Maine state championship before they went to that new style, and then Lockhaven. Golly, you're a Lockhaven alum. What a tradition there, especially now modern day. They're right in the action right now.
Yeah, there's been a lot of real high level wrestlers come out of Lockhaven. A lot of fighters.
I was going to say, a bunch of UFC
number of fighters.
Yeah.
Well, it's scrappy territory.
Yeah.
A few have come out of Pennsylvania State wrestling colleges.
Some, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of them for the UFC.
Phil Davis.
Yeah, lots. I'd say. But this is Tim. We're bumping up on time, and we can keep talking and going on and on. And
can we get a Tim Boetsch, is it the Destroyer? There's Conan the Barbarian, and then part 2 was Conan the Destroyer.
Yeah,
do you think we could get Tim Boetsch the Destroyer episode on?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Can we get one final question though, Will?
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Stevie.
Okay, I always like to ask, what's your dream hunt? When we have people on, I just want to know that.
Thank you.
Sorry, did I steal that from you, bud?
No. I totally forgot about the bucket list hunt. The catfish lights. Yeah, thank you.
The dream hunt. Well, I've got a few more I want to check off, but the one that I really want is to get one of these huge Yukon moose with like the 70 inches of rack or whatever, maybe even more. Just one of those monsters from up there.
Yeah, man.
And then maybe stumble onto a grizzly as well.
Those would be great.
Insane.
Now, for a guy like you, what are you going to do? Jump out of a tree with like a plastic bag for that grizzly?
Yeah.
Tim?
A bag full of rocks.
He's going to get just parachuted into Kodiak Island, and they'll come pick him up once he clears the bears off the island.
That is one of the things Tim and I have been hunting, a bear. Like, we actually got into bear hunting, and we really enjoy it. We didn't get one yet, but we will.
Absolutely.
But you guys aren't doing it like normal. Like, you guys are tracking.
Oh, yeah, we can go in there. How about it, Tim?
Loincloths.
No, putting
full Aboriginal gear, recurve bows.
Yeah, but you guys are putting pounding pavement basically. Yeah. I mean, you're not.
There's definitely a sense of athleticism to hunting that most people understand. I know when Tim and I go to Colorado, like I was saying earlier, not all people can cut it out there, so there is a level you can push.
It'll break you.
Yeah, either you can do it or you can't.
And we talk about it too. It's like all five senses. You're not.
Oh yeah.
You're trying to rely.
I think that's what like depletes you so much. It's like your eyes, your brain, like obviously
Your
the physical
tired
component.
back.
Yeah. Like every like Tim and I have gotten to a point where like you're just putting one foot in front of the other and you do not want to do it. You know, it's just like
Hey, just gotta get up there.
yeah.
Get up there, get them, bring them back.
Bring them down.
Well, and what you guys are doing is at a whole nother level, but there's something to be said just for sitting in a tree stand
Oh yeah.
for a sun up to sundown
I can't
sit.
do that. Like that's what I
mean,
can't do.
I do it all the time.
And
Tim can.
my wife will give me a bunch of crap at the end of the day. She's like, "How can you be tired? You're just sitting all day." And it's like, but I had all of my senses on high alert,
sure.
nonstop. Like I might have been sitting down, but I was never
Heck yeah.
at ease for an
never
entire
relaxed.
moment.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand like nutrient usage and like disbursement. Like that is one thing I think I noticed in hunting season at the end. Like my eyes are so much more efficient because I'm using them. But in the summer, like I can tell I don't use it to that degree.
Well, our eyes and our ears get real lazy, and,
Yeah.
then out in the woods we tune them back in and to
Sure.
where they should be like the predators we are.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so Ryan, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you,
And
guys.
Tim, we found out what's coming up next for you, but just so people know how to get a hold of you and follow what's going on in your life. Honestly, my personal favorite is your Instagram. But where can people follow you and get an idea of what's going on with you?
I would say get over to Instagram and check me out there, Tim Boetsch. I forget how to do the / this, that. Go to Instagram, plug my name in. You'll find me.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
over there. I don't have a lot of followers on there. I don't really do the Twitter thing a whole lot. I think that's fallen off a bit. But yeah, check me out on Instagram. And give me a follow.
Perfect. Guys, where can they find us?
Well, check us out at rutandriverpursuits.com.
We're at Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher.
Castbox.
How about that?
Rut and River Pursuits on Instagram
And Facebook.
Facebook.
R2 Pursuits at Twitter.
Check us out individually. R2 Buck.
And also Rut and River Pursuits podcast on YouTube. Don't forget that YouTube channel, guys.
Guys, this has been awesome.
Great show.
Thank you so much, Tim and Ryan,
thank you so much.
Ryan for
Yeah,
coming in
appreciate
studio.
having me
Tim.
on.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll do this
Anytime.
again. Lay a couple more down this fall, and we'll get you guys back on. It's going to be a good time.
Absolutely.
Are you talking about
Done.
fights or are you talking about animals?
All of them.
He said,
Whatever's
All
on
of
the,
that.
Put 'em
whatever's on the
all
hit list.
down.
Tim fights animals in the woods and in the octagon.
There we go.
And we're looking
lays them
forward
all
to the
down.
Destroyer episode.
perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
See you, Timothy.
Good night, man.
Love you all.
What if? But he's trained his body at that set weight for years. if I
Okay, so
remember.
that's the catch, right? So
Yeah.
what if I've been on a cruise all my life?
You're going to struggle to drop those back.
My cruise weight is 245.
I feel like fighting when you do.
Yeah, I mean,
He even says like sometimes he doesn't even remember it. Like it just like happened. Like,
Yeah.
he just like
Oh yeah, when you're in the flow, a lot of times you have to watch it. You're like, dang, yeah, that was nice. Glad I did that.